Good. Right, hi everyone. I'm Steve Roberts. I'm the Strategy and Delivery Director at BILLIGENCE, and thanks for joining me today on my talk about bridging the gap between business and technology. And what I'll be talking through is where the strategies I've seen to do this well and where I've seen it work well. But I'll be honest with you. I'll be talking about where the pitfalls are and the effects of not bridging this gap and how it grinds things to a halt. Everybody's here at Big Data London today basically because they're on some sort of transformation journey and they're using data and they're trying to do it at pace. During this journey, I'm sure you've seen terms, somebody's taught to you using terms like this, usually with strategy in their title. I'll be honest, I've got strategy in my title, I try not to use this, but I'm sure they've seen someone's taught you like this, using words like machine learning, decision making, data mesh, etc., can be very confusing. I generated this using Bard. And there is a point to this. There is the old cliche of junk in, junk out, and we all know the examples that's been in the news, such as where Bard or ChatGPT can't perform because it hasn't got the right training set, the right data, so lawyers submit the wrong cases to judges. But it's the same way when you actually don't know what you're looking for. You're asking the wrong questions, and that's as important. So the cliche around junk in and junk out is as important as if you're walking around blindly trying to pick up value, you're generally going to pick up junk while you're going along that route. And there's two teams that are really important for this. The business team, or the functions, and the technology team. So the technology team are there to make sure the right things are coming in, right data's there, and the functions are there to be asking the right questions. But they usually come at each other with very opposing views, or they usually come at each other with statements such as, we know what our customers want, we know what we need to do, we know how we deliver value, and we know what the landscape looks like. We're looking up and we're following the path, we know whether it's a flat, smooth path that we need a skateboard to accelerate along, or we know it's a jungle that we need a machete to hack our way through. But they know the customers and know what they're trying to do to drive the business forward. I'm sure everyone has heard this now or used this now, we need it now. Everything's very urgent. You might have a transformation program in place, you might have a change function in place that has got a year-long strategy, that's got projects laid out, but there will be changes in that, and as soon as those changes come along, there will be the statements made that we need this now. And then the final one, we understand the process. And the business have numerous processes, which means things practically have to be fitting into those. Good example of this is several years ago when I was working in the retail environment and we were looking at how to get new products in stores. The technology teams were coming along with, well, we can shorten the technology process to a couple of days, going through all the systems. And they were trying to do this with how we get wine into stores, and we had to point out at this point that you still had to put it on a boat and you still had to ship it from New Zealand, and that took 12 weeks. So you could accelerate this as much as possible, but what practically fit into the process is limited. But then the technology teams, they come with another set of statements. They know what can be done, they know the art of the possible, they know how to do, they know what's on the horizon, they know what technology is coming up, they know how to accelerate things. And they can do that blue sky thinking around the new trends that are coming along. They can do it properly, which is entirely true. Whenever something's hacked together in the business, it's hacked together in a way that works, that delivers value. Obviously, I'll be coming onto this in a bit. But the technology teams know how to monitor it, know how to support it, know how to scale it, know how to control it so that you're not taking down everything else across the board. And they can support it. The technology teams are there and set up organizationally to give the right support to whatever delivery is going on. And they can sustain it, whereas if you change your password in the business, it falls over. That doesn't happen if it's a proper implementation. But usually these are used in a negative sense, projected on the other silo, so to speak, to say we need to wrest control of the agenda. We need to drive it because the business don't know how to do it properly, or the business can't support it and scale it properly, so we need to go through the proper production pathway. Or from a functional area, it's a case of we need it now. We can't go through the full end-to-end life cycle on the engineering side. We need to actually make the change now. And both can be true. In fact, both are true and both can be complementary. And this is where the data teams can bring it together. Now, organizationally, the data teams sit in pretty much anywhere. They can sit in the functions, they can sit in the technology, they can sit in both, or they can sit separate and try and bridge the gap. But they are there to bridge the gap. Usually if they sit in one or the other, they're viewed with suspicion by the other silo, which isn't entirely helpful, or if they sit completely separate, they're viewed by suspicion with both. But they are there to bridge the gap. But they can really help break down these barriers and basically support the approach that we extol, which is a balance between prototyping and productionization. And this really enables, and it's really about enabling the business to have access to the right tools and data to deliver the prototyping pathway, but engaging the technology teams at the start, not right at the end, at the start, so they're brought along the process. And they know how to take it, they know what the requirements are, and they go on that journey of refinement of requirements. The prototyping pathway delivers value quickly. You refine, you feedback, you iterate, and you fail fast. And I'll come on to a bit more of that later. But you do refine those requirements for production. The prototyping pathway should never deliver the full value. It should just deliver, but it should deliver value, and it should deliver it quickly. And the production pathway is equally as important. That engagement at the start of the technology teams so that they understand the full requirements. They've seen where it's fallen down. They've supported the design of the prototype so it can be taken over. So it's not a case of the business teams get to the end of their prototype, they throw it over the fence, and then get frustrated that it's 6 months until the technology teams can deliver it because they actually don't understand it. But key to that, and in the middle there, is the cataloging and lineage, and doing that together and really understanding what the metrics are, making sure they're defined as you're building out that prototype. And that is really a benefit of this approach, is you're working together to understand what those metrics are, understand how they're created, so that the technology teams can do it properly, but the business teams can understand it and own it truly. And that is where key support from the data teams comes into place. If you go too heavily one way or another, it slows everything down. On the prototyping side, too much prototyping, not engaging the technology teams at the start, actually stifles innovation. You might be thinking you're driving forward innovatively, you might be thinking you're doing things fast, you've delivered that first chunk of value, you've got the business really, really excited, and you've set those expectations that you're this thought leader in what you can do. But you don't have anyone to support it. You're supporting it yourself. You might have built 10, 20 prototypes, but you're supporting all of them. They don't cover the entire of the business. They cover that one slither that you've managed to deliver it into. So it hasn't managed to scale out, either to wider coverage across your business, or to new use cases, or the full requirements. And it's not robust, coming back to that password question. I have seen in the past that an analyst leaves, they've set up the prototype so that it's their password that triggers it every morning, so the data's there when you come into the business. And it falls down, and everyone's scrambling around trying to figure out how to get into the system to change the password so it can be used elsewhere. It is not robust if you do it too much this way. And this really does impact your retention of your people. You bring in your data analysts, your data scientists to support the business, but to really be innovative, to deliver that change, to deliver at pace. And it gets frustrating. They're not there to just support and keep the wheels churning. They're not there to answer the 15 to 20 questions from different stakeholders in the business about why the data looks like that, why the pipeline's fallen down, why we didn't know that we had to change our password every month. And that really strikes into a retention issue in your data teams. But at the same time, too much engineering slows adoption, and I'm sure everyone who's worked on the engineering side has recognized these changes. It's too slow. By the time we've delivered it, our priorities have changed, and to deliver those new requirements is costly. The change is not adopted. We can't access the data when you've got it. You've just given us a black box. We don't know how to use it. It might be supportable, it's robust, it's monitored, you know when it's running, when it's not running. But again, it comes back to you're not going to be able to retain your engineering teams if you go too heavily down this pathway. They're going to get frustrated. They're going to see they've done a lot of great work, but they're not getting any thanks from the business. In fact, they're getting negativity from the business, and they're never seeing that true value to the customers. They're never seeing that change being delivered and change being adopted. And it gets frustrating. But getting it right really does make a difference. Getting that balance with the support of central data teams or functional data teams, does really make the difference. And this is what, clicker not working, this is one of the examples that I'll just give you where I've seen it work really, really well. And this again goes back to my retail days. This was a really simple change. It was a waste reduction initiative, but it was a really simple change. It was effectively insight reporting into an in-store process, but the data was horrendous. It was in 3 different systems, but that one of those systems was spread across store servers across the piece. As a business, we knew how to get to it, get to 1 or 2 pieces of it, and we knew how to bring it together, and we knew how to produce an output from it, and we knew what we wanted to do. But really engaging the technology teams right at the start, they were able to see how we built that out, see how we developed it, see how we could prototype it, and we could access not just one of the servers in one of the stores that we could prototype it on to deliver value for that store, but they could understand how to enable it across the piece. Like I said, it was an incredibly simple change. We were able to prototype it in 6 weeks. We were able to get it into a collection of stores. We were able to show the value that this, again, it's just simple reporting insight, could deliver. They could change their, or they could adhere to the process a lot more effectively. They knew where they were falling down. But bringing that technology team along, we were then able to roll it out further. We were able to build it into production very quickly. We, as a, I'm trying to think of the right term for us at the time, business change analytics team, were then able to go on to the next innovation and support the rollout to the stores. But at the same time, that template could be taken across several different countries within the group that I was working in. And within those countries, it was a minimum of yearly saving of £2 million loss reduction in each country that we rolled it out to, which was an incredibly powerful story for what we want, how we got that buy-in for future innovation that we wanted to do. So this is an example of where it works really, really well, but I'm not saying that prototyping works every single time. 90%, everyone should be familiar with a stat that's similar to this one. So 90% of experiments fail. That's why prototyping fast is quite important. 90% of our experiments fail. But just to be clear, this is not a data stat. This is true everywhere. This stat is actually taken from a study on wider research experiments rather than just simple data experiments. So when we say we fail a lot in terms of data science experiments, we shouldn't feel too bad. Actually, the stat that I'm most familiar with, and I think this is a Gartner stat, but I'd need to check on the provenance of this one, it's 87% of data science experiments don't reach production, which actually is great. We're doing better than the underlying average. Probably not statistically significant. But this is really why it's important to have that balance, because enabling your business with the right data, the right tools, to prototype quickly, to rapidly iterate, to refine those requirements. You won't always be successful, but you will be successful on a number of them, and you will be successful on a higher number of them the more you do. But if you can't productionize that, if you can't shift it over, sorry, that's the wrong way of saying it, but if you can't work together on productionizing it so that it can be supported, it can be robust, it can be scaled, there'll be no point in doing that prototyping fast. In fact, there's virtually no point in doing the prototyping at all. There's so many times I've seen that prototypes are delivered, again, going back to you get the business excited, but there's so much effort, the analyst leaves, and actually the prototype dies away, and you've lost that initial benefit. So really bringing those teams together and engaging the technology teams at the start, but enabling your business with the right tools and technology is absolutely key. So set yourself up for success. Change the mindset that data is there to prototype and iterate. It is not there just to be given access to when it's asked. If you set yourself up so that when the business asks you for data, that you need to go through a number of checklists to say, is this the right data for them? And then enable them with that access, they're never going to ask you for access because they don't know that the data's there, they don't know what they can do. Making sure that you're proactive, that's where you're engaging your data teams, your data governance teams, and they're enabling the business so that the teams have access to the right data at the right time, that they can trust they should have access to that data, really supports changing that mindset into a prototyping mindset. And from a technology team, make sure you change your mindset too into the business can prototype. They know how to prototype, they know what they want, and we can support that. If we're proactive, and from the business team engaging the technology teams early, then you can be a success. So trust the business to prototype. And from a business side, involve the engineering teams early on. That way, everyone knows what the data means. The business already have a good grounding in it, but as it's productionized, the engineering teams actually know what they're doing, actually know what they need to do, and they know what the full requirements are. They know how to chop and change those requirements as and when needed. So that engagement at the start, that communication is absolutely key. And getting the tool, ensuring the tools and access is there to make it simple to prototype. That's absolutely key. Enabling your business teams. The data team supporting the business teams with the right access to the right tools and the right data. Again, pitfall that I've seen is the statement, well, the business shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be building up the technology. They shouldn't be using that piece of technology and making it hard to get to that piece of technology. And that's where you get the shadow IT. That's where you get the plethora of Excel spreadsheets springing up across the business that then you have a headache that you need to go and map. They will find a way to do it, but it won't give you the benefit, give you the pace you need. So trusting them and enabling them with the right tools and access. And at the same time, making sure you've got the right tools to make it robust when it's productionized. And make sure the business are aware of what that looks like. That way you build the trust, and from a business perspective, trust the technology teams that they've got the right tools to support it. And if you engage them early, then they can actually really, truly bring that value to life and scale it out across what you're needing to do. So fundamentally, key point I'm making is, from a technology side, trust and enable the business teams that they know what they're doing and enable them to get the right tools and access to that data. From a business side, bring your technology teams in early. Really trust that they know what they're doing and how to scale it out. And that way, you can take it from you can prototype fast, you can take it from a prototyping stage to a scaled full requirements coverage, and your business will see the true value of your data on that data transformation. I thought I'd be 20 minutes, but I think I'm slightly quicker than that. But thank you. Any questions? Yes. You might need a microphone. I think it's just coming. If we can't get this to work, you can find me on stand 239 after this if you want to find me.
Sorry. Thanks, Stephen. You mentioned quite a bit about trust. Have you got any comments on how do you, in that sort of bridging partnership role, influence trust from the technology?
I can't quite hear you. You might need to tell.
How do you influence trust, both on the technology side and also the business side? How can you stimulate that trust?
So this is where the data management teams, for want of a better word, data governance teams, and I actually try to use the word data enablement rather than data governance, they can really bring those two pillars together on the engineering and the business side. They know what the access to the data should be, if the true word of governance, but they should be enabling the teams to actually deliver it, and they can really bring those teams together right at the beginning of initiative, make sure that there's that clear communication, clear visibility of what initiatives are on the roadmap, or what initiatives and ideas are coming up, and that's where the data governance enablement team can really bring the IT teams together. And it's really getting those teams together at the start. Engineering teams can see what's going on, see what needs to happen, and it builds the trust from the business side that they actually understand how to take that further, scale it out. Good. Any other questions from the audience? We've got one over here. Who's got the microphone? It's just down here. This chap, sorry. He'll switch it on.
Hi. With regards to engaging technology, when it comes to prototyping, is there any particular type of forum or method that you think is best to engage with technology? I particularly hate meetings, so I don't want to sit in another hour-long meeting. So just to find out yes or no, whether you can do something or not.
So it does vary based on the ethos of the business, and actually there's nuances within that. So if you're kind of going, if you've got a business teams, business data teams, and you're aiming for that broader spread and more kind of the code light, low code, no code, tools such as Alteryx, tools such as Alteryx are ideal for prototyping very, very quickly because you're able to see the data flows within it. Obviously, if you're going for the more code-heavy environment in the business, the citizen data scientists, tools such as Databricks are really powerful in that fashion. And also, if you've got a Snowflake instance, when you're looking at Snowpark, and the data's sitting on there and you can experiment quickly there, you have the right accesses there, that can really accelerate the business prototyping in that sense. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. If you want to follow up on any questions or anything like that, I'll be on stand 239 over next to the Data Governance Theatre. Thank you very much.